Natural Order of Morpheme Acquisition, a historical survey and discussion of 3 putative determinants, written by Yoon Kwon, an extra credit presentation by Amy Mendez and Kayla Johnson. What is a morpheme? Any of the minimal grammatical units of language. For example, the word weighted. The ed at the end represents a morpheme. And morphemes are composed of the elemental unit in the given language. A single word may be composed of one or more morphemes. For example, the word boy. Natural order studies were a seminal spark on the branch of research in which speakers acquire grammatical morphemes. This research started in the 1970s and was first known as independent grammar assumption. However, since the field of study was mostly dominated by researchers who were looking into the evidence to support the innatist view of language acquisition, the term natural order studies was favored. And then in the 1980s, the research started to focus more on the agents or factors of the acquisition order itself. Let's meet the researchers, whose methodologies we continue to refer to and use today. Dr. Roger Brown's research and teaching focused on developmental and social psychology and the relationship between language and thought. Dr. Peter and Jill DeVeers both teach at Smith College and continue their language acquisition research studies today. They all researched the morpheme order for L1. However, their research served as a springboard for others to take the research into the natural order of L2 acquisition. The history of morpheme studies can be traced to Roger Brown's study of 3 children who were native speakers of English, American English to be precise. In his study, he came to the conclusion that all 3 children learned and mastered the use of the functors or the morphemes in the same equivalent order. One can come to the conclusion that the choice of grammatical functors or morphemes as an object of study was motivated by the fact that the use of obligatory in certain contexts comes to basically how much and how often the children use their morphemes and which context they use them in. In these studies done in L1 and L2 in this table, you can see that there's slight variations on the early morpheme order. However, the commonality across the board is that the morpheme order comes in this same order, regardless of the second language age or L1 background. Most researchers lean towards collecting oral data, and the instrument most commonly used has been the bilingual syntax measure. Most researchers lean towards oral data collection, and the instrument most commonly used is the bilingual syntax measure. This is an example of the predictable outcome. Why might this person be fat? Because he's eaten too much ice cream.
The Natural Order of Morpheme Acquisition by Yoon Kwon discusses what may affect morpheme acquisition, also known as determinants. While L1 and L2 determinants are similar, determinants affect every L1 and L2 learner differently and come from their own unique language environment because of the differences in both L1 and L2 learning and individual differences of the students. But these are the determinants that usually affect L1 learners. And these are the determinants that usually affect L2 learners. Semantic complexity, input frequency, and native language transfer. Kwon's article focuses on specifically these 3 determinants. These determinants hold specific importance because semantic complexity and input frequency shed light on the relationship between L1 and L2 acquisition in both adults and children. The first determinant we'll be discussing is semantic complexity, which are functions used to express meaning and amounts through a particular form. On page 11, Kwon states that plural s's express numbers, whereas the third person singular present s express persons, numbers, and tenses. These all fall under semantic complexity and can be difficult for L1 and L2 children to understand. They struggle with this concept because they are still developing cognitive and conceptual connections. Next, input frequency refers to the number of times a given structure occurs in a language to which the learner is exposed. The more chances the learner has to hear grammatical items occur, the more input they have to better their learning. This is connected to the behaviorist perspective. Those who believe in naturalist perspective think the role of input is to trigger the LAD device. Lastly, native language transfers may interfere positively or negatively with learning a second language. Similarities in languages may give the learner an advantage. Examples include morphemes, namely articles, which are featured of Spanish syntax but are absent from the Korean language when learning English. Researchers recognize native language transfer as a behaviorist theory and an important element in L2 acquisition.
Your time and for your attention. Many of this information is quoted directly from the article written by Young Kwon Kong.